Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hack, and in this video we'll be breaking down everything you need to know about the new Blackwood chapter coming to the Elder Scrolls Online. From skill changes to champion point updates, to the Zone of Blackwood itself and the new main story, and even the brand new companion system, there is a lot to go over so that you know what to do on day one. So let's jump right into it. The Zone of Blackwood itself and the main story arc that comes with it is probably one of my favorite things about the new chapter. Blackwood breathes a life of its own, and the cities and people and environment are all extremely well done. Now, I won't spoil any of the story for you, but let's just say that it did a great job keeping my attention for the full duration of the main quest, and some of the side quests are even better in my opinion, offering up a full cast of interesting characters to meet and fantastic locations to explore. Now, the zone is also quite large, massive actually, so make sure you've got a mount and some riding speed because you will definitely be needing it. Finally, be on the look for brand new random encounters throughout the zone, especially on the main roads. You might think at first that these are just merchants, but no, these are fully fleshed out characters that seem to appear at random. Some are strange, some are flat out hilarious, and several offer unique achievements for helping them out. Of course, the Zone of Blackwood has everything you would expect from a new chapter, from delves and sky shards to public dungeons and even the brand new Rock Grove trial. So there's plenty of content here, not even talking about the main story quest. There's a lot here to keep us occupied for quite some time. As you explore the Zone of Blackwood, you will undoubtedly come across randomly spawning Oblivion Portals. Now, these are essentially world events, as we've seen in previous zones, like Harrow Storms or Dolmens, but they are not the same in terms of mechanics. First of all, they are extremely rare and also very secretive. There's no big sound effects or visual effects that clue you in to the presence of a new Oblivion portal. It's actually the opposite. These are just small, tiny holes ripped in between the fabric of Tamriel and the Deadlands that are very difficult to hear and even harder to notice visually. But once you do actually manage to spot one, that's where things get interesting. First, you'll need to kill off the Daedra surrounding the portal and then head inside, where you'll see you've actually entered a new type of public dungeon where you spawn in on a random island. To progress through the portal, you need to make your way deeper and deeper into the center of the Deadlands itself, while Dagon's minions taunt you and try to block your progress the entire time. There are multiple bosses here inside the portal, including a secret boss, which all drop a set piece from the Blackwood Zone. And in the final encounter, you'll fight a boss with waves of adds, very similar to a dolmen. And once you defeat this, the zone is finally cleared. You'll be able to loot a chest for the usual piece of jewelry from one of those 3 Overland sets. Now, I do have a complete guide to Oblivion Portals, which I will link in the description if you're interested. Bottom line on these, though, is they are quite fun to explore and take part in, especially your first few times through. You may even want to hunt these down repeatedly if you need the set pieces that drop here. You don't need a group either necessarily. Portals can be soloed as well, as long as you have a decent amount of champion points and decent gear. So overall, Oblivion Portals are a nice addition to the zone, and they serve as a fun diversion as you're exploring Blackwood. Let's get more into combat and mechanic updates for the Blackwood chapter, and I want to start specifically looking at champion points. Now, there are some big changes here, both in terms of player progression and also opening new play styles. First, let's talk about passives. Many passives have been cut down as far as how many stages can be unlocked versus what was available in the Flames of Ambition patch. For example, you're going to see things like Precision getting cut down from 4 stages to 2. Same thing with Tireless Discipline, now 2 stages. Eldritch Insight, now 2 stages. Piercing is now 2 stages. This is true for many of the passive nodes in all of the CP trees. Same thing for like the Red Tree. Sprinter is now 2 stages. Hasty is now 2 stages. So you get the idea. Less stages are now required to max out the passives in the CP system. And this could definitely go either way in terms of your opinion, good or bad. If you have fewer champion points, it's now going to be a lot easier and faster for you to max out these trees and get the most out of your points. Whereas if you have more champion points, if you're already maxed out, then you will see a nerf in terms of your overall build power. Like we saw, you will have slightly less critical chance, slightly less, max magicka or max stamina, or things like cost reduction or even health that we saw in the red tree. So that's true of both red and blue. Not much has changed as far as the green tree. So that is passives. Now, in addition to passives being reduced, there are actually some new slottables which I am excited for. One of them is now here in the extended might tree. You might have noticed this before. There's now a slotted star for Weapons Expert, and this was actually missing last patch. It was in the previous CP 1.0 system. This increases your damage done with light and heavy attacks by a max of 15%. So if you saw the Dragonite build that I put out just a few days ago, heavy attack builds are now back. Heavy attack builds are more viable because you can get more heavy attack damage from slotting Weapon Expert. Obviously, you're going to need to give up something in exchange for this, but it is a nice option for those builds and those players who like the heavy attack playstyle. In addition to Weapons Expert, we also have a brand new subtree called Mastered Curation. You can see this is closer to the healing staff side of the blue tree, which probably means it's healing focused, and it is. So here's where Blessed is now. Again, you can max this out with only 2 stages, and it will unlock some nice options here. Obviously, for healer builds, Salve of Renewal, when you remove a harmful effect from yourself or an ally, you heal them and allies nearby for 1280 health per stage. That's going to be actually quite a lot of health with 5 stages maxed out. 6,400 health is pretty strong passive healing. You also have Hope Infusion, healing yourself or an ally under 50% health, grants them minor heroism. You also have From the Brink, whenever you heal yourself or an ally under 25% health, you grant them a damage shield, 2,200 damage per stage absorbed. So that's going to be 11,000 damage shield. This effect can occur once every 30 seconds per target. And then finally, Enlivening Overflow. Overhealing yourself or an ally grants them health, magicka, and stamina recovery, equal to 0.5% of your max magicka, up to a cap of 150 for 6 seconds. So that is the new healing subtree. That's in addition to your other slotted healing stars here. So lots of options for healers now in the blue tree. And then let me just show you Staving Death. We did talk about all of these are now reduced to 20. Preparation got reduced to 20 as well, but it actually got buffed. And this is nice. So you only need 2 stages. Here you get 5% damage reduction now per stage, so 10% max. This actually saw a buff, so make sure you're getting preparation. That damage mitigation is nice. Now, another massive change that we have to talk about coming in the Blackwood chapter for ESO is a complete rework to how proc sets function in the game. What's happening is that proc sets will now scale up according to your maximum stats instead of being just a flat value. The stat that's used depends on the set itself. Now, damage-focused proc sets will scale with a higher of either your weapon damage or your spell damage. Healing-focused proc sets will now scale with a higher of your maximum stamina or maximum magicka. And finally, tank-focused proc sets will either scale with your max health, and in some cases, the higher of your physical or spell resistance. Now, this is kind of a mixed bag, obviously, because it's going to vary greatly from player to player, based on how many CP you have, your food, your Mundus Stone, potions, buffs. But for me, in my own testing, I've found that most sets were about the same, maybe slightly better in most cases. But in terms of damage-focused proc sets, and I'm talking specifically about stamina builds here, I was actually able to get those tooltips much higher. That's, of course, because stamina builds can have higher base weapon damage due to medium armor passives, which boosts your weapon damage, while light armor doesn't have that. For example, running Venomous on a Stamina Dragonite, you can see the Hunter's Venom proc is already much higher than you would see on the live server. 3,700. This is unbuffed currently. If I were to buff that with Major and Minor Brutality, you can see it's almost 5k poison damage per target. That's even without a weapon glyph procced. So just be aware, this scaling is coming in the Blackwood chapter. And it's going to be interesting to see where sets like this land in both PvE and PvP. One of the most game-changing elements recently has, of course, been the introduction of mythic items to the game, and the Blackwood chapter continues that trend with some unique and powerful mythic items that you definitely want to check out. First one I want to show you is called Harpooner's Wading Kilt. This is a medium leg piece. It comes in Divine's Max Stamina. The bonus here, dealing direct damage grants you a stack for 1 minute up to 10 stacks maximum. You can gain 1 stack per second. Each stack increases your critical chance by 125 and critical damage by 1%. Taking damage now removes 5 stacks, but if you manage to not take damage, like if you're in a coordinated group with a tank, you pretty much have a 1-piece max crit chance and crit damage bonus. I mean, this is only 1 piece. This is not a 2-piece monster set. This is incredibly strong for just the 1 piece. You could even combine this with a 1-piece monster set like, let's say, Slimecraw for even more crit chance. So DPS builds, this is definitely something you'll want to look into. Let's switch that out for the head mythic here called Gaze of Sithis. This is a heavy armor helmet, Divine's trait, and it gives you 3 bonuses and 1 negative. So you get max health. You get about 1,000 health recovery and 4,000 armor, but this does reduce your block mitigation to 0. Now, this is going to be good on such a variety of builds. I can see me using this on tons of different solo builds. Health recovery especially is a very strong stat, and the max health and armor is not bad either. This has a lot of possibility on PvP setups as well. This is just insane. It's incredibly powerful. Now, we also have 2 jewelry mythics. Let's start with Death Dealer's Fate. You gain a persistent stack every 2 seconds you are in combat, up to 30 stacks maximum. Each stack increases your max stamina, health, and magicka by 88, and you lose a stack every 4 seconds you are out of combat. So this is pretty interesting as well. This is a ring. This is bloodthirsty with the stamina recovery enchant. Obviously, the longer you are in a fight, the more powerful this is going to be. So I see this as being more useful probably for trials like DPS builds. That's 6,240 max stats for stamina, health, and magicka, and it takes about a minute to ramp up all the way. I don't know about this one personally. It's interesting. It's an interesting mechanic, but the fact that you need to be in combat for a minute does kind of limit the circumstances where you would use this. Now, the other one that's also very interesting is called Shape Shifter's Chain. This is a necklace, bloodthirsty trait on this one as well. Reduce the cost of your transformation ultimate abilities by 15%. And while transformed, you gain 1707 health, stamina, and magicka. So this works on Necromancer Goliath form. It works on the Werewolf ultimate as well as the Vampire ultimate. The 15% cost reduction is nice. Again, this is just 1 piece. There are 5-piece sets in the game that give you the same bonus. So you can get the same thing with just a 1 piece instead of a 5-piece. Pretty interesting. I might be combining this with some other cost reduction sets on some of those transformation builds. Again, either Vampire, Werewolf, or the Necromancer Goliath. So those are the options for Mythics coming out this patch. Again, all of them look very strong. I definitely will be checking these out for some builds in the future, and I'm sure you are interested in these as well. Let's jump into some skill changes next. Now, in terms of class changes, Templars probably got the most useful changes of all classes in this patch. That's because there was a specific buff to Templar tanks in the Living Dark skill. This now scales off either magicka or max health. Now, in addition to this, both morphs of Rune Focus, so that's like the little rune that Templars stand in for extra defense, but it now gives you a pretty strong heal over time effect for standing inside the rune. I actually like this a lot for solo builds. It's going to be a nice option for PvP, stand your ground, and of course tanks will get a ton of benefit from this as well, having that extra passive healing. Now onto weapon skills and some nice buffs here, especially for stamina. Deadly Cloak from the Dual Wield skill line is getting a nice damage buff in the Blackwood Chapter, as will the Stampede skill from the Two-Hand skill line. Both of these changes are going to make Dual Wield and Two-Hander much more viable backbar options compared to the typical backbar bow. Pretty much all 3 options are going to be strong choices. And speaking of backbar, Dot's Caltrops is going to make a comeback as well in the Blackwood Chapter, getting its damage buffed by a whopping 36%. It's still fairly cheap to cast, and it still applies Major Breach, so definitely think about adding this to your rotation. Another brand new system coming to the Blackwood chapter that's very exciting is the new Seals of Endeavor. This is essentially daily and weekly rewards that you get for doing certain specific activities in game, where you can earn seals that then allow you to purchase Crown Store items. Now I'm on the PTS still, so obviously the cost will not be 1 Seal of Endeavor per item, but you can see that mounts will be available through the Seals of Endeavor system, as will the usual like body markings, furnishings, pets, and emotes. So pretty much things that you would be getting out of a crown crate can be purchased with Seals of Endeavor. Again, how do you get them? It's just through basic things that you would do in game, like for example, killing 10 enemies with a class ability, or killing 3 world bosses a day. The weekly ones are a little bit larger, completing 6 dungeons in a week, or completing 4 trials in a week, or killing 8 players in Cyrodiil. So obviously the cost here is still up in the air. This can change before the day 1 patch, but just keep an eye on that Endeavors tab. Make sure you're checking what the daily and weekly Endeavors are so that you complete those and start earning your seals. Last but not least, let's talk about the biggest new feature coming to the Blackwood chapter, and that is companions. Now, the companion system has been in the works for at least a year plus now, so we know it's something that is a big addition to the game, and it's also something that ZOS are going to be continuing to put time and effort into the future. Companions are combat-focused NPCs that you can take into battle with you in most encounters, including delves, dungeons, and trials, though they are not allowed in PvP. Companions can be completely customized with their own equipment, their own weapons, and even their own skill lines, including weapon skills, guild skills, armor abilities, and even class-like abilities. There are 2 companions coming out first in the Blackwood chapter. That is Bastion, the Imperial. His skills are very similar to the Dragon Knight class. And then we have Miri, who is a Dark Elf, and whose skills are very similar to the Nightblade class. Now, the main thing you need to understand about companions is that while they can have similar function to players, meaning you can build your companion as a healer or a tank or a DPS, companions are not designed to replace players. For example, as a tank, Bastion can hold block when a heavy attack comes from the boss just fine. He can also hold aggro fairly well. He has a taunt skill from the Sword and Board skill line. But he can't position a boss for you like a player tank would do, and he cannot avoid many of the AoE mechanics that are specific to certain dungeons or trial environments. Also, let's say you want Miri to play with you as a DPS build. Fine, she can do that, but she's not going to do the same damage as a player, not even close. She can do maybe 5 to 7k DPS in total if you fully spec her out as a DPS build. So companions are not OP in the least. They are not a game-breaking feature, and they're also not designed to replace players. My best advice in terms of companions is to make sure you have your expectations in check for this new system. Companions are actually going to be a lot of fun in terms of leveling up, designing different play styles. You can even design their outfits, and you just bring them along with you on your adventures. You can bring them into situations where you don't need a group, or maybe when your group isn't available. So in my opinion, they're definitely a great addition to the game, a great option for solo players as well, and I'm looking forward to more companions and more updates. That being said, if you want more information on companions, including all companion skill lines, companion build options, I'll have links for those in the description and the pinned comment down below if you want to check those out. And with that said, that's going to bring us to the end of our Blackwood preview video to get you all ready for day 1. I hope this has been helpful for you. Of course, if it has, then don't forget to crush that like button. It really does help out the channel. And for more ESO Blackwood guides, builds, and news, make sure you're subscribed right here to HDM with those notifications turned on so you don't miss anything. Links to my website and social media are down below. If you want to check those out, we also have a YouTube membership program with lots of cool bonuses and perks, including a members-only video library. If you want to see more about that, click on the join button for more information. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.